Hey guys, this week I welcome Stephen Brewster back to the podcast. Stephen has worked for several churches on staff and now serves as a creative consultant, coach, and author. Stephen, what's up, man? Welcome to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be here. It's such an honor. Thank you for having me, man.
Dude, you are chilling in your car. You are just pulling off the side of the road, just chilling, man.
So professional. It's unbelievable.
That's how we roll.
Honestly, like the truth is, I'm terrible at administration, and so I just like realized at one point you got to stop trying to do the things that you're just awful at and roll with it. And so this is today's version of rolling with it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Now, I had you on the podcast a couple of years ago, and quite a bit has happened in your life. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, but catch our audience up on kind of where you are, what you're doing now.
Oh my gosh. So years at Crosspoint, it was awesome. I loved it. Love the Crosspoint team. Pastor Kevin Queen is amazing. The team, Matt Warren, Kevin Cook, the team that leads over there, and all my good friends that I got to serve with. Totally love them. Some interesting things happened at the end of our journey at Crosspoint, and God just created a really soft place for us to land in Florida. And so we did. We crashed into Florida. We were at a great church down there called Real Life Church for about 5 months, and we thought we'd be there a whole lot longer for sure. And God opened a door for us to go to Charlotte, and we went to Charlotte and worked at a little church in Charlotte for about a year. And then just, kind of felt like God was telling us, it's time for you to step and time for you to honestly, Carl, like I felt like I was stealing somebody else's opportunity. I was sitting in a seat that didn't belong to me anymore. And some 30-year-old leader needed to be in that seat, not me. And so we just started praying that God would open some doors, and the doors he opened are crazy. And so we're helping churches literally all over the country right now. And the way we look at it is people get overwhelmed for one of two reasons in church. Reason number one is they're overwhelmed because their success is so great that they're not sure they're stewarding it well. The other reason is they are working their tails off and they can't find the rhythm or the systems to generate the same level of success as their work effort is. And so either way, you're overwhelmed, and we try to come in and help both sides. So
awesome, man. Well, one thing I love about what you do is it's not just, here's a couple of, ethereal things to think about. You really kind of put legs to stuff and make it really practical. And I think it really, it changes the culture so that they can kind of continue, and it's not you say one thing and it's heard and then not put into action. So that's one thing I want to talk to you really about today is how to change your volunteer culture. So you've written on this topic, and I want to kind of walk through 10 ways that you found that you can kind of change your volunteer culture. So these are super simple and practical, but kind of set us up with these. And these came from a book that you were reading, right?
Yeah, a little bit from a book that I was reading, and then a little bit of an adjustment based on the world that we live in. Volunteers are always the heartbeat and epicenter of our church. Culture is a huge thing, and you either make culture intentionally or you permission it passively. And either way, there's going to be a culture. And so you have a responsibility. I believe we have a responsibility as leaders to create really healthy cultures for people to serve in. And when we do that, we get the best out of people. And when we don't, unfortunately, a lot of times it wounds people. And there's, in my experience over the last several years, there's too many wounded former church attendees and volunteers. And the leaders I meet at churches all over the country are really, really good leaders. And so sometimes even the best leader needs a roadmap just how to get there. And so I think we're going to take a little walk down the roadmap today.
All right, so let's start diving into these 10. Number one is know your story, which I've talked about before too.
Yep.
When we're changing volunteer culture, know their name and their story. And you put it this way: you say, "Know your story and serve with a smile." Kind of
Yep.
walk me through that.
Well, so I think you have to know the story of every individual that you serve with. It's amazing. Like one little fact that you know about a volunteer makes them understand that you actually care about them a lot. Knowing their story is super important, and then knowing your story and the story of what you're trying to tell and what ministry you're trying to do, and then I believe in sharing those stories together to create a better story, a bigger story. And then always serve with a smile. Like
Yeah.
the smile is the best thing. I mean, it's amazing to me. I was reading the other day. I'm a little bit of a psychology nerd, but I was reading about like the power of smile and how it changes. Like they did this study of sales guys who naturally smiled versus didn't, and the guys who smiled sold more. And we get to control our energy and our attitude. There's not a lot of things we get to control, especially on a weekend. But one thing that we get to control is our energy and our attitude. So smile, man. Show up happy. Be glad. You get to do ministry. You don't have to.
Yeah, and people feed off that. I think that's been my experience in leading volunteers too. Is if I walk in grumpy, like I don't want to be there, that's going to translate immediately to them and set the
Yep.
tone. And so, if I'm smiling, if I'm happy, if I bring the energy, it it carries over to them.
No question.
All right. So one thing that you mentioned when we're talking about number one here is to stop copying others.
Yes.
So I think that goes to know your story, be unique. What makes your church unique? So kind of speak to that and how we
Yeah.
kind of lend to copying others sometimes.
So here's what I think is true, and God's really moving on my heart on this topic right now, and I've actually got some stuff that I think, like, hopefully by the end of the year, I'm going to be able to share this in a much more succinct manner. But um, we start our ministries, and God calls us to do a certain thing, and then it gets hard. And so what we do is we start to we use Instagram and start to realize, oh, that guy does the same thing that I do, and he has more success than I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that and I'm going to borrow it or steal it or best practice it, and I'm going to just attach that right here. And then I'm going to attach this guy's other thing over here, and this. And before long, we Frankensteined out our ministry and our calling. And when you know your story and you know what God's called you to do, and you stay true to that, man, amazing things happen. And God is a diverse God. He made very diverse people, and we all have different people to reach in the world. And so don't become a copycat of what somebody else does, because you're not going to do it as well as they do it. Be a designer original. Like, stay true to what God called you to do. And when you stay true to that, you get to have the success that nobody else can have.
And I think, well, like with you serving at Cross Point, I've served at New Spring. Those are just two examples of the churches that we've served at. You know, not every church is Cross Point. Not every
No,
church is going to be a New Spring, nor do they need to be. They're not
nor
going to
should
reach
they
the
be.
same. Correct. They're not going to reach the same audience. They don't need to package it or deliver their product per se in the same exact way. Um, I think I would agree with you in that I think that we try to be, what are they do? What's the church down the street doing?
Right. And unfortunately, we're all becoming the same flavor.
Hmm.
And I think God's kingdom is more Baskin Robbins than it is like vanilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So true. All right. Number two is go the extra mile. So obviously we can know our story. We can smile. These
right.
are super simple. So let's walk through number two. Go the extra mile.
So anytime you've ever been to some kind of a service environment where somebody does just a little bit more than what you expected, it blows you away, right? We talk about wow moments all the time, and we're like, a wow moment, that means like we have a Skittle drop and there's like unicorns and fireworks, and well, that's amazing. And I want to go to that party, so please invite me. But the truth is, a wow moment just exceeds people's expectations. And every time we get the chance to go the extra mile to just do a little bit more, we blow people's minds away. We exceed expectations, and we create an environment where their barriers and their walls come down a little bit. And that allows us to serve and minister to them in a completely unique and different way.
And it is that mentality of do for one what you wish you could do for all. Totally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can't, and that's great. You don't have to. But if you see an opportunity to serve and do ministry, and a lot of times ministry is more than just a prayer request or a song. It's man, I got to carry your baby's stroller through the lobby because both your arms were full, and
Yeah.
you'll never forget that, and you'll be back next week.
Yep. So relate that to volunteer culture. I'm a leader. I'm leading
Mhm.
volunteers. How do I go the extra mile for my volunteers?
So when a volunteer is has sick kids, you're and they're your responsibility. That volunteer is your responsibility. You show up and with some soup and take care of those kids, or you figure out ways to serve them the way you hope they serve a first time guest who's coming to your church.
So in production, I think a lot of the times Sunday can be frantic, and so what we're most concerned about is making sure the buttons were pushed correctly.
Yes.
But we're not as concerned with pastoring them well.
Right.
And Sunday is game day, yes, but how can we pastor first during the week and even on Sunday too? But how do we pastor first?
Yeah, well, I really am a firm believer that the future of a leadership pipeline is no more than 6 direct reports to each volunteer leader. And so throughout the week, if I only have 6 people that I'm responsible for, I can text one a day and they feel the love. And then on Sundays, you're taking time to look people in the eyes and to congratulate them and to champion when they win and then to coach them when they lose. And before we start service, we're going to pray together, and I'm going to make sure that I talk to each person individually and make sure that their week's going okay. And just, hey, how are you doing? Is everything good? You ready for today?
Yeah.
What do you not know that you wish you knew? Or what do you need to know that you don't know? And just it's slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
And as a staff person, our responsibility is to be prepared when we show up on Sunday so that we can slow down and serve our volunteers before they serve our community.
Okay, so number one, know your story, serve with a smile. Number two, go the extra mile. Let's move to number three, greet, speak, and be real sweet. Walk me through that.
So that was kind of what we kind of started to bleed into there a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I remember there were a lot of days at Crosspoint that I was a terrible leader, and I walked around with my face in my phone all day long, putting out fires all over the place. I wasn't intentionally ignoring people, but man, put your phone away.
Yeah.
It's an hour on Sunday, hour and a half. The world's not going to burn down. Um, Look at people, say hello, find out what's going on in their world, have a 2-minute conversation, and just be nice. Like it's amazing. Kindness is contagious. And as a leader, when you set that atmosphere, man, it changes everything.
I remember when I first started at New Spring, and this is no ding on anybody. There was really no leader in place, which is why they hired me. But I would walk into the production room, and it's dark. Everybody's on their cell phone.
Yep.
And so what I started doing is, all right, lights are coming on. I'd put couches outside the production room. I'd put games out there. Like, we're not
Yep.
going to be doing this,
Right.
buried in our phone thing.
Yep.
And man, we're so quick to do that. If we have 5 minutes to just sit and wait, we're automatically the phone comes out and we're
Yeah.
messing with our phone. But when we were looking at this, that's what the first thing that came to mind is. I think one way we can be sweet is put the phone down.
Yeah.
Not really engage with
Be
people.
engaged. Be present and be engaged.
Yeah. So I was just kind of looking at my notes to see anything else I want to ask you on this one, but I think looking them in the eye, listening to their questions, being in the moment. Do you have any other thoughts on how we can be fully there?
Knowing something about them before they get there. So social media makes it really easy for you to find out what's happening in somebody's life. And like if I walked up to you and was like, "Man, I saw your daughter's birthday party. That looked really cool. Did she enjoy it?" You're gonna be like, "Wow, this guy cares about me. He at least
Yeah.
cares about my family. He may not like me, but he cares about my family." And now all of a sudden, I've gained some equity with you.
Yeah. That's a great note in that before people get there, if you got to church 20 minutes early and just browse social media of your volunteers so you can kind of see what's going on in their life.
Yep.
That's cool. All right, number 4, say thank you and please a lot.
All
These
the
are
time.
like life lessons from the Brewsters.
It's like the golden rule
Yeah.
part 2. No, like I mean, say thank you and please. Like that shouldn't be complex, but a lot of times I think the haste of what we're doing is so intense that we forget to say please and thank you. And the truth is, our volunteers are serving us and serving with us. They don't have to be there. And so appreciate them. Let them feel the love.
Yeah. So what are some practical ways that we can be kind? We've talked about a few, but
Yeah, I mean, I think kindness starts with a please and a thank you.
yeah.
Hey man, thanks for serving today. It really means a lot. Shooting them a text afterwards. Sunday night, putting a group text together for the team that served on Sunday morning and just sharing a win and thanking them. Easy 3-minute exercise that changes everything.
Yeah. Yep. And one thing I see too is if I do that, then they know what to replicate.
Right.
They're texting, when they're in charge on a Sunday, or they're texting people that they know. They're doing, what does it do as I do, not as I say.
Right.
People see
Exactly.
what you do and replicate that.